Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wolfpacker Show. My name's Ethan McDowell. I'm here with Noah Fleischman, and we are here to talk about a rivalry win. For the fourth year in a row, we are on the Wolfpacker Show to talk about an NC State victory over North Carolina. The Wolfpack hit the road up I-40 and picked up a 35-30 win over UNC. It was a back and forth game of constant lead changes, constant momentum shifts, and a tale of two halves in respect to just offensive output in Saturday night in Chapel Hill. But it was an exciting game, a one that puts a little shine on an otherwise disappointing season for NC State. And we're going to talk about everything that happened in this game. Noah and I were both in Chapel Hill, so we're going to break down all of the sights and sounds, the post-game celebration, and what got the Pack there, which was a gutsy win. But before we do that, I want to just quickly mention that we're both writers for the Wolfpacker.com. That is NC State's site on the On3 network. Whether you're looking for reactions to this win, if you're looking for recruiting scoops in advance of December 4th signing day, or you're ready to focus on basketball and you want some team analysis on basketball coming out of their Thanksgiving tournaments, you can find all of that on the Wolfpacker.com. Encourage you guys all to go check it out. Right now, you can get a subscription for 1 year for 50% off your annual subscription. That comes out to just under $5 a month. That is less than half of a Chipotle bowl. It's about the same as a Big Mac, I believe. So go check it out. That is just $4.99 a month for access to our premium message board, all of the team analysis, recruiting scoops you could ask for. And if you want to come celebrate the win over UNC with a bunch of Wolfpack fans that are fired up about it, go check out the Wolfpacker.com. Okay, Noah, let's talk about it. 35-30, a exciting win, an up and down win, lots of mood shifts in this contest, but the Wolfpack got the job done. They finished the year 6-6 and are now bowl eligible. This is your second time covering a NC State game. It's your first time in Chapel Hill. I just wanted to get your thoughts, man. What are your thoughts on this season-altering win for the Wolfpack?
Yeah, first time at Kenan Stadium, really, really exciting. Obviously, I was there for basketball, a different environment, for this game being played in Chapel Hill instead of in Raleigh last year. More of a competitive game than we saw in Raleigh last year. NC State, Carolina, first half, neither team really could get anything going. A lot of punts, 7-6 at halftime. Kind of was a boring game. Second half, though, Ethan, it delivered with a bang. NC State outscored Carolina 28-24 in the final 30 minutes to win the game. And, man, it was really exciting. I think it's kind of what you expect from a rivalry game. Players were into it. Chippy from the start. The crowd was into it the whole entire way. And that's the kind of game you want to see. And it was decided in the last minute of the game. I don't think you really want to see it any other way. I mean, last year, NC State won by 19. It was handled basically by the start of the fourth quarter. You knew that the Wolfpack was going to win. This year, it was back and forth in the fourth quarter. 32 points scored in the last quarter alone between the two teams. So really, really exciting. It was a heck of a game and just another chapter in this storied rivalry that NC State has now won 4 straight and is kind of taking control of in the modern era.
One thing I really appreciate about Dave Doran and this program as a whole is that they don't shy away from this rivalry, right? This is the biggest game of their season, full stop. They don't hide from that. They'll admit that. Dave Doran stressed that in pregame and postgame press conferences. Yes, they're going to preach the one game at a time mentality, but once they get to the Saturday after Thanksgiving, like that, they're not going to hide from the fact that this game just means more to this program. It certainly means more to both fan bases than any other game. It is a hotly contested rivalry, and we asked him earlier in the week about in a season where he brought in 40 plus new players to this roster. That's more than 40 players who really had never experienced the rivalry before. Some didn't know anything about it, but it was so clear that everyone had bought into it in a season that, be straight up, it's been a disappointing year for NC State. There's no sugarcoating that. But this did not look like a team that was ready to just, go 6-6 and go to a bowl game or go 5-7 and end the season. No, they were fired up to play this game. I was cracking up as the team ran out of the tunnel to start the game. DK Kaufman sprinted straight over to UNC's sideline and was talking crap to them. Like that man was playing in the Iron Bowl for the past few years, but he fit right in with the NC State UNC rivalry. And it was cool, seeing CJ was into it. All the new players were into it, man. And it was just cool to see this team, even in a year where, sure, in big picture scope of things, it doesn't have that, a win or a loss doesn't have that much of an impact on NC State or UNC's program. But it does to the fans, it does to the coaches, and it matters to the players. And that's important. That's what makes college football special. And I just thought it was a really fun game to watch. It was, like you said, chippy from the first until the final whistle and after, I guess, as well, if you want to talk about the brawl after the game. But emotions were high, and it was a lot of fun. Why don't we just let's start with the fourth quarter, or just the second half as a whole. NC State really turned things on in the second half offensively, and they needed to, because UNC started to catch fire. Omarion Hampton, I mean, we talked about him earlier in the week, wrote about him extensively on the Wolfpacker.com. I mean, he's the best running back in the ACC, one of the best in the country. He had over 200 all-purpose yards, a couple touchdowns, averaged 8.4 yards per carry. It's not often that you see a running back put up those types of numbers on NC State's defense, and that's just a testament to how good he is. And they leaned on him, and it worked. But the Pack was up for the challenge, and behind a couple of young players, or I guess I should say a group of young players, they were able to answer every potential knockout punch by UNC. NC State had a counter punch, and that's what really impressed me, because in a couple close losses this year, that hasn't been the case. And no, I was just super impressed by how CJ Bailey, Hollywood Smothers, and the rest of that offense really responded in the second half.
Yeah, this was a response not only in the second half to what happened in the first half. NC State in the first half had 89 total yards of offense. It was a response, I think, to what happened last week at Georgia Tech, a one-score loss that NC State, it keeps finding itself on the wrong side. Now it finally gets a one-score win. Bailey, 11 of 12, 2 touchdowns for 223 yards in the second half. He did not look like a freshman in that period. I mean, talking about Hollywood Smothers, turned it on at 8 rushing yards in the first half, finished the day the leading rusher for NC State at 83 with 2 touchdowns. And then Noah Rogers had 2 drops in the second quarter, was not going his way. This season really hasn't gone, I guess, the way that some had hoped for him, just being a game-changing former 5-star recruit. But, man, that showed up in the last drive. Big 44-yard catch through double coverage. Don't know how the ball got to him. Don't know how he made the catch. He held on for dear life, and it worked. And it set up NC State's touchdown to take the lead with 25 seconds left and eventually win. So, I mean, that trio is a true freshman and 2 redshirt freshmen making game-changing plays for NC State in the biggest game of the season for the Wolfpack at this point of the year. I think it's really exciting, not only for now, but for the future and for NC State. So overall, while they got themselves into a shootout with UNC's offense, which is, all Omarion Hampton, he had 263 total yards of offense in the game, 2 touchdowns. I mean, it was definitely a good thing to see NC State have a response. And Hollywood Smothers did it, and Noah Rogers did it, CJ Bailey did it. And we even saw a little bit of action from Kevin Concepcion, found the end zone again for the first time in a few weeks. So the young guys stepping up big, a lot of first and second year players making a lot of plays.
Yeah, KC finished 3 catches for 44 yards. I believe 2 of those were on the same drive, the touchdown, and then another 21-yarder or something like that. So good to see him get involved. And I mean, he had such a huge game against UNC last year, so it was good to see him, still be able to make an impact in this game. 4 receivers finished with 3 receptions in this game. The Wolfpack spread it around, but still kept they were getting the ball into the hands of their best players, right? And I think that's been a criticism at points, is that they rotate a lot of receivers and a lot of running backs. And I think that's something fans kind of pointed to, something they'd like to see change. And they still rotated folks through, which I think personally, in my opinion, still makes sense, because you have a lot of talented skill position guys. But you were getting the ball to Justin Jolie consistently, Hollywood Smothers consistently. Dave Doran talked about halftime adjustments, and it sure looked like those halftime adjustments to an extent were, hey, let's just get the ball to Hollywood in creative ways and let him cook, because holy crap, that kid is a star. We've talked about him a few times this season, but man, I mean, I think everyone expected him to be someone who could be a change of pace back this season, where he could come in and make plays in the passing game, eat on some outside zone runs and stuff like that, which he has. He's been huge in those situations. But he's a complete running back. He's running between the tackles. He's breaking tackles. He's making folks miss, and he has breakaway speed. He is a complete player. I think he's a future All-ACC player. And if the Pack can keep these two players in Raleigh, I think the backfield of C.J. Bailey and Hollywood Smothers is going to take NC State to some great places down the line, even though this year in itself was a disappointment. Sorry, that was my Hollywood Smothers tangent, but all of that was to say I thought they did a good job in the second half offensively with just scheming up plays for the best players, man. And that's all you can ask for. If you had told me that Amarian Hampton had over 250 yards and this turned into it, and they scored 24 points in the second half, I would have guessed that they lost. I did not think this was going to be the type of game that NC State won. But the offense really stepped up, man. 220 rushing yards, almost 5 yards a carry. That's good. The running game, we kind of have to change. They've kind of changed the narrative on the rushing attack for this season. We kind of have to change the way we talk about this season's rushing attack, because they finished really strong on the ground, and I think that's a testament to the offensive line. And I think the running backs, all three of them, Hollywood, Kendrick Raphael, and Jordan Waters, have all improved significantly as the season's going on. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. I think over the status of the last 4 games, all three of them have averaged above 6 yards per carry, which,
Wow.
it's a crazy number to think about. NC State finishes over 200 yards on the ground again. Another balanced day, which I think is really, really important when you look at this rushing attack, being balanced. Because early in the year, they were putting up big numbers, but it was based on like a 95-yard run or an 80-yard run. Ethan, their longest run was 21 yards, and they finished with 220 yards. They averaged 4.8 yards per carry. Dorian's goal is about over 4 yards a carry, because if you average that, you're going to get a first down every time you're on the ball. If you go 3 straight runs. Great math, I know. We were talking about in the press box. 6-yard run turns into a touchdown if you do it 10 times, whatever. Beside the point. I think they really like it. They also have abandoned. They tried it a few times, run the ball with Kevin Concepcion. He finished with 4 carries for 0 yards, had a long of 5. It's kind of one of those things of just let the running backs do their job. Let Kevin be a wide receiver, and, let CJ use his legs when needed. Bailey with 54 rushing yards, Kendrick with 48, Jordan with 35. It's really balanced. I think this was, these last 4 games was NC State's best rushing performance of the year. It's what people thought they were going to get from the day one, when you added Jordan Waters, who had a, all ACC kind of season a year ago. You bring in Hollywood Smothers and have Kendrick Raphael back. So great building block for NC State to not only have now, but to build on for the future with 2 of these guys being in their second year of college football.
And that's what you said it perfectly, building for the future. That's what we've been focusing on for the past few weeks, because that's what this season is now. It's not the season NC State's going to take a leap, but maybe they're laying the foundation for a team that could, because there's so many young contributors on this team. And, the rushing attack has looked a lot better, like you said. And, the big thing was, in my opinion, maybe the pivot point of the game was not only was the rushing attack consistently, it helped NC State keep a chokehold on time of possession in this game. UNC scored touchdowns of 17, 47, 50, and 75 yards in this game. They were kind of living and dying off of explosive plays. They were not stringing together long, consistent drives, but they were doing a great job of ripping off 15-plus yard plays and scoring some long touchdowns. And to avoid keeping the defense energized, to avoid fourth quarter fatigue, so that in these fourth quarter drives they were able to get a couple of stops. NC State won the time of possession battle by 11 and a half minutes, 35-24. That's really good. I don't think we've really seen NC State dominate time of possession like that this season, at least in ACC play. So that was impressive to me. And I've seen enough to feel pretty good about where the Pack's headed into the offseason. If they can return a lot of this core, I think they're actually going to be in a pretty good spot for the future. I know if you're a Wolfpack fan, it might be a little hard to energize yourself for another round of transfer portal recruiting, another bowl game followed by another offseason where there's going to be a lot of people trying to find optimism. I understand if you're not just chomping at the bit to get excited for 2025 yet, but it should make you encouraged to watch what we have all watched over recent weeks, even if the wins and losses aren't pretty. Some of these performances are, the overall trend of the team is, and yeah, man, this was an important win. I think it completely flips the narrative of this late season, because if you go into the season, if you're NC State on a 2-game losing streak, both by, if they don't score on that final possession, they're back-to-back 1-point losses. And I think the tone for this offseason is dramatically different than it will be now,
Yeah, for sure, and especially going to a bowl game now, NC State, 5 straight seasons of making a postseason game. So yeah, I think it's really different. The bowl game also provides an opportunity for these young players to continue to excel and develop on the practice field. NC State, that's what they hang their head on, development, and this is a big 4-week stretch that they'll have now to develop a guy like CJ Bailey, Hollywood Smothers. You can look at these freshmen through sophomores, really, they all need these practice reps. Even the guys aren't playing as much. You talk about a Kanan Jackson, go down the list, Jonathan Paylor, Terrell Anderson. It's really, really big practice time for them. They may even get big-time game reps in the bowl, depending on people opting out and transferring. So big opportunity here. And we've spent a lot of time, Ethan, on the offense. The defense, even though they gave up 30 points, played pretty well at times and had guys step up in key spots. Secondary was banged up the entire game from the start. We saw, Davin Van kind of took over on the defensive line, and the linebackers played well too. So I think overall, yes, we're talking about a big-time game that turned into a shootout, but there was a reason why it was 7-6 at halftime. NC State's defense was playing pretty well.
No doubt about it. And yeah, I thought the defensive line was particularly good. Davin Van was, his usual self, forced a nation-leading 6th fumble in this game, and tied the single-season record for NC State in forced fumbles as well. Just continuing to add more and more accolades to a storied career in Raleigh, set a new career high for sacks as well in this game. And he's going to be an all-ACC player, and that's great because you don't always see defensive linemen in this 3-man front get the recognition they deserve. He's going to get the recognition this year because he has had a ridiculous season. But I also thought Trevally Price was good in this game. I thought Brandon Cleveland was super disruptive at times. And I thought that unit was very, very impressive. And I thought the linebackers struggled at points. The 75-yard run by Hampton was, bad run fits. It's something we've seen a lot this year. But the secondary, man, I don't know. We're about to give out our game balls, so I don't know if you were going to give him one. Honestly, he deserves one. But Jackson Vick, dude, like the redshirt sophomore, he was a 4-star recruit, but he's someone that's always been like in the 2 deep. We just haven't been able to see him much. But man, when he was called upon after Brandon Cisse left the game with an injury and Aiden White also didn't play in this matchup, he was great. He had a critical pass breakup, and then they brought him on a corner blitz, and he recorded a huge sack. Doran said after the game that there's a story behind that, but he's not going to tell us it. But he was clearly very happy to see Jackson Vick make that play. And it was cool. It was cool to see some of the younger DBs step up and make plays. And man, I thought all things considered, the defensive performance was better than the numbers show. And of course, they got the job done. They did what they needed to do to win. So yeah, really impressive day.
Yeah, for sure. I think the DBs are really kind of underrated in this game. Jackson Vick, as we talked about, playing a lot of key snaps when Brandon Cisse went out with an injury. Aiden White didn't even play, so you saw a ton of Devon Marshall. We saw Rente Hinton get a lot of run with Bishop Fitzgerald going out at halftime. Like, this was a team that has been playing banged up in the secondary most of the year. I mean, we haven't even seen Devin Boykin this year. He's starting
Yeah.
safety coming into the year, right? He's still working his way back from an ACL. We'll see him next year. Could see him in the bowl game, maybe. But it's kind of one of those things where everything was getting wrong. I mean, even DK Kaufman had to leave the game for a couple plays because he got banged up. Like, guys are playing through things, Ethan, and we're seeing young guys step up too in the secondary. So I think it's really important. Yes, Carolina scored points. Yes, they had some big plays, but overall, they made plays when they needed. Jackson Vick, I think, though, was the biggest, playmaker of that bunch, especially late in the game on that corner blitz, which kind of took the air out of Carolina on their opportunity to try to win the game late.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. One more defensive stat before we move on to game balls. 6 different players broke up a pass, and that includes, DK Kaufman, Bishop Fitzgerald, Devon Betty, Jackson Vick, Devon Marshall, and Noah Potter. So you had players at all 3 levels of this defense making plays. Tamarcus Cooley had 2 pass breakups that he didn't get credited for as well, by the way. I'm not really sure why he didn't get credited for both of them, but he should be on there as well, which means 8 total pass breakups for the Wolfpack in this game. And, that for a game where, like you said, they were missing so much depth in the secondary that, it was, all things considered, a good performance by them without a doubt. Let's hand out some game balls. No, I'll let you go first. There's plenty of people you can choose from to recognize in this game, but who are you going with to just acknowledge as a player of the game, an individual performance that just really stood out to you Saturday evening?
Yeah, we already talked about Jackson Vick, so I think it's assumed he got one, so we'll move on from him. And, I think Hollywood Smothers deserves it. He was a spark plug in the second half. He had 117 total offensive yards. I think his third game with total 100 yards from scrimmage,
At
maybe
least
fourth.
3. At least 3.
And 2 touchdowns. I mean, he's been a really big spark plug in the second half of the year. I think he deserves 83 rushing yards, added another, 34 through the air. He was really consistent. He's been kind of that game-changing back. And now Ethan McCall running back 1 going into next year.
Yeah, man, I think that's a safe bet. I think that's a good call. I think he will be leading the Wolfpack backfield for as long as he wants to be in Raleigh. He is a really great player. You can give it to the backfield as a whole if you wanted to. I mean, again, 220 rushing yards, folks. All 3 running backs averaging over 5.3 yards per carry or better. They were all very, 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 very good. I don't care that he had 1 catch. It was the catch of the year, Noah. I'm going to give mine first game ball to Noah Rogers. 1 reception, 44 yards on 3 targets. You talked about he had the early issues with the drops. And if you go back to the final drive of the Georgia Tech game, he had a drop on the final play leading up to the field goal attempt in that game. So that's 3 drops in, just over a half of football for him. But he didn't let that rattle him. And on his biggest play of the season, he came up huge. It was a beautiful ball by CJ, dropped it right into Noah Rogers' hands. And when we were watching it live, from where the press box was, Noah and the defenders were on the far sideline. And you saw the ball kind of go into the fray, and you could not see what happened. I could not follow the ball at all. When all 3 players popped up, my eyes went to one UNC defensive back, the other UNC defensive back. Before I even realized that Noah Rogers had come down with that catch, it was an incredibly impressive grab. And, of course, that set up the winning score in this game. So I think he deserves a game ball for, coming up when it counted and bouncing back from, it's been an inconsistent season for him. You can obviously see why the Ohio State transfer was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. And he's had his moments and he's struggled at points. But, man, what a moment to come up in and secure a catch that helps pick up a win in his first edition in a rivalry that he grew up knowing a lot about. Heck, his brother plays for UNC. So big win for him and big win for the Pack and just a great performance by him on that final drive as well. Who gets your second game ball, Noah?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to Dante Daniels. He's a good story. They drew up a play for him, inside the red zone, 14-yard touchdown grab. His first as a Wolfpack player, his second of his college career. He only had one touchdown grab at Butler Community College in 3 seasons there. He's just got an inspirational story, going from homeless to being, scoring a crucial touchdown in a historic rivalry game. So I think that's really important, and he's just a really good guy off the field too. So go to Dante Daniels breaking through, scoring at a big time moment for NC State.
Yeah, that couldn't happen to a better guy. Shout out to Dante. Always been super, super kind with us. Whenever he speaks with the media, by all accounts, a super nice guy. Recruits love him. Coaches love him. Just a good guy. Psyched to see him score in that moment. That was cool. I'm going to give out my last one to DK Kaufman. He's someone that I've talked a lot about on this podcast, but I just think he deserves continued flowers. He's only going to be able to spend, he got here in the summer, so 6 months in Raleigh. Just a brief Wolfpack career, but I think he should be remembered quite fondly by Wolfpack fans. He had some struggles earlier in the year, but he took steps forward consistently. And he's been really good down the stretch. He took over as the kick returner, has been pretty dynamic as a kick returner as well. And I think he just deserves credit. He tied for the team lead with 7 tackles, 4 solo stops, had a pass breakup, had a QB hurry. He has been exactly what NC State needs its free safety to be. And I think he's just played really good football lately and deserves a game ball, especially because of just the energy he plays with. I think when you bring in experienced guys who have played, 4 to 5 years of college football, you want to have someone who's going to immediately buy into the team culture, and you just look like someone that's been there their entire college career. And that's definitely the case with DK. Like I said earlier, he was super into the rivalry for sure. It was definitely part of the UNC threw one of NC State's flags in the post game after they tried to plant it at midfield, and DK took exception to that. And after some pushing and shoving, did a victory lap around the field with the flag, firing up a impressive section of Wolfpack fans in the corner of one of the stands. And yeah, I just think he deserves a lot of credit, and he's someone that we should when we look back on the 2024 season, we should think quite fondly of DK Kaufman's brief career with the Wolfpack. All right. Before we get out of here, I wanted to talk bowls. NC State's head coach Dave Dorn said after the game that sure, winning the 6th game was great. Getting bowl eligible was great. But that's not really where his mind was at. He was focused on beating UNC. That's always the most important win of the year for the Wolfpack. But the fallout from that is they will play a 13th game this year. They will go to a bowl. And no, you've been kind of following this all fall. You've been keeping track of the bowl bracketology. Where's like a realistic bowl destination for NC State this year?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's kind of one of those things that NC State being a 6-6 team, it's going to be interesting. ACC, I believe there's 13 bowl eligible teams of the 82 that are nationally. One of them or two of them will be in the college bowl playoff with if SMU or Clemson or both of them get in. So it's really going to come down to what bowls want them, because it kind of goes through the bowl selection process where they're all ranked in different tiers and they get to go down the list and say who's available and pick based on that. ACC's got a lot of bowl tie-ins, but don't be surprised if NC State doesn't end up in an ACC bowl and ends up as an at-large team. They could end up anywhere at this point. I'm still thinking ACC bowls that are possible are the Military and Fenway Bowl, but I wouldn't count out, going to Birmingham, going to the Detroit Bowl even. Like, this is going to be an interesting bowl selection process for NC State. The thing they have going for them is they travel well and they buy tickets, so that's enticing to the bowl operators that are going to be doing the draft. But I think it's one of those things we're going to have to keep an eye on this week, see what the projections say. Not too many are out as of Sunday morning. We'll get a better idea Sunday evening into Monday on what things. But I think even this could go anywhere from Military to the Birmingham or the Detroit Bowl, even up at Ford Field.
Yeah. All right. Well, Well, just everyone book plane tickets to Tampa, Shreveport, Birmingham, Annapolis, and we'll figure it out from there. Boston too. I went to college in Boston, so that'd be a cool homecoming. I've covered a football game in Fenway Park. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool experience. So that would be an exciting one if that's where NC State ends up. But in addition to finding out where NC State will land and its bowl destination, signing days this week. Did want to plug that we are going to have a signing day show. Last year we did a live show. We're not going to do it live this year, but it's going to be a similar format. Noah and I will talk a little bit about the class, and then we're going to have some interviews with some of the commits. If you haven't read the interviews or watched some of our previous Wolfpacker recruiting shows, and you don't know like some of the guys in this class, that NC State's bringing in some great personalities in this class that are fired up to be joining the Wolfpack, and a signing day coverage is going to be really fun this year. NC State's not done recruiting this class either. They could get 3, maybe more even commits before signing day's over. So keep an eye on that. That's another reason to go join the Wolfpacker.com, right? So go check it out. It's silly season. It's signing day, and then portal starts, and we're going to have full coverage of all of that. We already dropped a big portal scoop last week. So encourage you all to go read the Wolfpacker.com, because the next few weeks are going to be very exciting, and we're going to see what the foundation is going to be for 2025. And it's always one of the more fun times of the year. And right now we have a sale active for $1 for a week as well. If you just want to dip your toe in, see what's up, see if you like what we're selling on this podcast. It's only $1 right now. So go check out the Wolfpacker.com. You can click the link to join in the description of this podcast, and we will talk to you all Wednesday on signing day. We will talk to you all then. See you soon.